On planet Earth, there are places that make the idea of the world we know feel uncertain. In these locations, landscapes create experiences so unbelievable that they hardly seem real. Each place feels like a different reality, where familiar limits appear to no longer apply. Most of these places remain beyond common reach, adding to their mystery and rarity. Join us as we explore Impossible World, the most unbelievable places on planet Earth that exist beyond imagination, yet undeniably real. Blood Falls emerges from the terminus of Taylor Glacier and flows into Lake Bonny within the McMurdo Dry Valleys of Antarctica. The name comes from the deep red water pouring out of white ice, creating a striking contrast, driven by iron oxidation. Because the cold, dry, and high radiation environment closely resembles Martian conditions, NASA regularly studies this site to test autonomous exploration technologies. Thor's Well is a natural sinkhole formed in basalt rock along the Oregon coast, famous for creating the illusion of a permanent void draining the Pacific Ocean. The formation is often called the drain pipe of the Pacific because seawater rushes inward and erupts back out, making it appear like a bottomless hole in the ocean's surface. In reality, the structure is only about 20 feet deep, but its shape and flow dynamics amplify the impression of an endless abyss beneath the waves. When powerful swells strike the opening, internal water pressure can force jets of seawater more than 20 feet into the air. The surrounding area is prone to sudden rogue waves, with currents strong enough to sweep away obstacles near the edge. The appearance of Thor's Well shifts dramatically with lunar position and tidal cycles remaining harmless and exposed at low tide before transforming into a violent ocean feature just hours later. The Mendenhall ice caves are known as one of the few glacial environments where shape and scale can change within just a few seasons. Their vivid blue color is entirely natural because the ice is so thick and dense that it absorbs all other wavelengths of light and reflects only blue. These caves are not carved by humans, but formed by meltwater flowing down from the glacier surface, moving through cracks and gradually hollowing out the ice. Inside, temperatures stay at freezing humidity, remain saturated, and oxygen levels shift unpredictably, making it impossible for any plant life to survive. The entire ice structure moves an average of about 1.5 feet per day, meaning no one can ever see the exact same Mendenhall cave twice. Despite their beauty, the caves can collapse at any moment if temperatures rise or the ice weakens, which is why entry always requires trained specialists. Rainbow Mountain, also known as Vinicunca, lies deep within the Andes of the Cusco region in Peru. The mountain reaches an elevation of about 17,000 feet above sea level, nearly matching the height of Everest Base Camp. Vinicunca became globally known for the parallel color bands stretching across its slopes, forming the appearance of a massive rainbow spread directly across the terrain. The red coloration on the slopes of Vinicunca comes from iron-rich clay and shale that oxidized over millions of years. The green bands originate from clay containing chlorite and magnesium, formed through long-term geological metamorphism. For most of its history, the mountain remained almost permanently covered by snow, and only around 2015 did rising global temperatures cause the snow to retreat, revealing the color layers and rapidly turning Vinicunca into a major tourist destination. Cappadocia is the only region on Earth where fairy chimneys were formed from compacted volcanic ash shaped unevenly over millions of years by erosion in a semi-arid climate. Its soft rock valleys conceal vast underground cities carved by ancient people seeking shelter during times of war, with some sites accommodating thousands and stretching several miles through storage tunnels and ventilation shafts. In the 20th century, a local accidentally uncovered one such city while renovating his house, sparking large-scale archaeological investigations. The landscape transforms with the seasons, showing glowing red pillars at sunset, lush green valleys in spring, and snow-covered ridges in winter. Ancient stone churches and wall paintings from early Christianity remain preserved, forming a hidden religious heritage deep beneath the surface. Socotra Island is considered one of the strangest places on Earth because long-term isolation produced a biosphere largely separated from the rest of the planet. Roughly one-third of its plant life is endemic, with 37% of 825 recorded plant species found nowhere else on Earth. The most iconic species is the dragon's blood tree, recognized by its inverted umbrella canopy and red resin, adapted to arid wind-exposed conditions. Other unusual plants include the water-storing bottle tree and Dendrosixios socotranus, the only member of the gourd family to evolve into a large woody tree. Visiting Socotra places humans inside a living ecosystem that appears disconnected from standard evolutionary patterns seen elsewhere on Earth. Dalol volcano is a geothermal crater holding the record for the highest average annual temperatures on Earth, commonly exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit and frequently spiking above 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Instead of normal soil or rock, the surface is built from mushroom-shaped salt pillars, crystallized salt veins, and gas vents constantly releasing heat from below. The landscape is saturated with intense colors, including bright yellow, orange, red, pure white and green, produced entirely by sulfur compounds, iron oxides, salts, and dissolved minerals in hot water. Across the area lie small pools filled with highly acidic brine and sulfuric solutions, often appearing turquoise, yet remaining extremely toxic and scalding. Despite these conditions, local workers manually harvest salt and transport it by camel. Trolltunga, meaning the troll's tongue, is a thin and flat rock slab projecting horizontally from a mountainside in Norway, suspended above a drop of about 2,300 feet above the lake below. The rock extends several feet outward with no railings or support, forming the geological feature that made Trolltunga globally recognizable. The surrounding area consists of steep rocky slopes, deep blue glacial lakes, and exposed granite cliffs, creating a landscape with minimal natural shelter. In Norwegian, troll refers to a giant creature from Norse mythology, and tunga means tongue, reflecting a traditional belief that the rock represents a troll's tongue turned to stone by sunlight. Reaching Trolltunga requires a round-trip hike of about 17 to 18 miles with a continuous travel time ranging from 10 to 12 hours. Visitor numbers increased from a few hundred per year before 2010 to more than 80,000 annually, driven largely by the spread of check-in images on social media. Meteora is a complex of Greek Orthodox monasteries built atop massive sandstone pillars in central Greece, with a name meaning suspended in the air and recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The rock columns formed from ancient sandstone deposits that were uplifted and eroded over millions of years, leaving narrow vertical shafts with flat tops and almost no transitional slopes. Medieval monks spent about 22 years hauling construction materials to the summits using nets and pulleys. Yet once materials were in place, each monastery could be completed in roughly 20 days. At its peak, the area contained 24 monasteries, but warfare, looting, and turmoil from the 14th century through World War II led to widespread destruction. Today, only 6 monasteries remain intact, standing on dark vegetation, free stone pillars rising sharply above the open plain below. The landscape later appeared in the James Bond film For Your Eyes Only and inspired the design of the Eyrie in Game of Thrones. The Cave of the Crystals, located inside the Nika mine in Chihuahua, Mexico, is known for containing the largest natural selenite gypsum crystals ever discovered on Earth. The chamber lies about 980 feet below the surface and remained completely isolated until 2000, when 2 miners accidentally drilled into it while constructing a ventilation tunnel. Inside the cave, several crystal formations reach lengths of up to 36 to 39 feet, with diameters of about 13 feet, and estimated weights of around 120,000 pounds each. Scientific studies indicate that these crystals required roughly 500,000 years to reach their current size, growing at a rate comparable to the thickness of a human hair over several decades. Despite their ice-like appearance, the cave environment maintains constant temperatures between 122 and 136 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity levels approaching saturation. Under these conditions, humans can survive only a few minutes without specialized protective equipment, as extreme humidity can cause water condensation inside the lungs and lead to suffocation. Sigiriya is globally recognized for its unique combination of ancient engineering, sophisticated urban planning, and highly refined artistic craftsmanship. At the top of a rock face, tilted nearly 90 degrees, ancient builders constructed a full fortress weighing thousands of tons, despite having no natural pathways leading to the summit. Carving a lion figure the size of a 9-story building directly into a vertical cliff is considered an extreme sculptural achievement in world history. Sigiriya is also famous for its ancient frescoes depicting women floating among clouds with colors that remain vivid after more than 1,500 years of exposure. To protect these irreplaceable murals, Sri Lankan authorities strictly prohibit flash photography and even ban taking pictures in the fresco zone to prevent long-term fading. The cliffs of Moa stretch along Ireland's western coast for more than 5 miles, rising up to nearly 400 feet above sea level. They are part of the Burren Formation, created from sedimentary layers over 300 million years old, mainly shale and limestone, shaped by the Atlantic's waves into deep fractures and isolated sea stacks. During major storms, winds blow so fiercely that streams flowing off the cliff are lifted back upward instead of falling into the sea. Each year, more than 30,000 seabirds from 23 species breed here, including the brightly beaked puffin and the fulmar, which can glide for hours without flapping its wings. A stone observation tower, called O'Brien's Tower, built in 1853, still stands atop the cliffs, offering unobstructed views toward the Aran Islands and the 12 Bens Mountains on clear days. Vaadhoo Island is globally known for the Sea of Stars phenomenon, where the shoreline glows bright blue at night, as if a sky of stars has fallen onto the ocean. The effect is produced by bioluminescent plankton, called Lingulodinium polyedrum, which emit light when stimulated by waves or physical movement. The neon blue glow lasts only a few seconds, yet each footstep on wet sand leaves a visible trail before fading away. The intensity of the phenomenon does not remain constant year-round and depends strongly on water temperature, ocean currents, and plankton density during late summer. Visibility is highest under near total darkness, as artificial light quickly overwhelms the weak biological signal. Clean coastal waters and minimal light pollution make the Maldives one of the rare places on Earth where this phenomenon can be observed with consistency. Lençóis Maranhenses is located in the state of Maranhão in Brazil and is defined by a vast system of white sand dunes extending across a very large area. The name Lençóis Maranhenses means bed sheets of Maranhão in Portuguese, referring to the way the winding dunes resemble long white fabrics when viewed from above. During the rainy season from January to June, rainwater collects between the dune valleys and forms thousands of freshwater lagoons with turquoise and green coloration. Some lagoons reach depths of up to 10 feet and maintain a stable water temperature of about 86 degrees Fahrenheit due to direct connection with underground aquifers beneath the sand layers. The water in these lagoons is not stagnant, but is continuously replenished by subsurface flow moving through the sand foundation. The sand at Lençol Maranhenses appears pure white because it is composed almost entirely of quartz crystals eroded over millions of years. This quartz composition limits heat absorption and allows people to walk barefoot on the sand even during the hottest periods of the day. Waitomo Glowworm Caves is a large limestone cave system located on New Zealand's North Island, formed over millions of years through the continuous erosion of limestone by groundwater. The cave network contains wide chambers, underground streams, and complex geological structures shaped by long-term stalactite and stalagmite formation. The site is globally known for hosting Arachnocampa luminosa, a glowworm species found only in New Zealand. The larvae of this species emit blue light in complete darkness to attract prey. Each larva releases dozens of thin silk threads coated with sticky mucus, creating suspended traps within the cave airspace. Preikestolen, also known as Pulpit Rock, is a prominent natural cliff in Norway and functions as a national symbol of adventure tourism. The defining feature of Preikestolen is its almost perfectly flat summit, forming a natural square platform measuring about 80 feet by 80 feet. This rock mass ends abruptly at a vertical drop of nearly 90 degrees with no sloping terrain or transitional ledges below. Weather conditions at Preikestolen change rapidly, allowing climbers to begin under clear sunlight and encounter dense fog within about 30 minutes. This fog can completely obscure the cliff edge, making the boundary between solid ground and open void difficult to perceive. From the summit surface, the view opens directly over a deep blue fjord below, and the site has also appeared in major films such as Mission Impossible Fallout. Horseshoe Bend is a horseshoe-shaped curve of the Colorado River carved directly into the floor of a vast sandstone canyon. The massive rock formation at the center of the bend, known as the Gooseneck, has resisted continuous erosion by the Colorado River for millions of years. All surrounding cliffs at Horseshoe Bend are composed of Navajo sandstone, a geological remnant of an ancient sand sea that once covered much of North America during the Jurassic period. The canyon walls surrounding the river rise about 1,000 feet above the water below, forming a nearly enclosed vertical landscape. These sandstone layers are approximately 200 million years old, dating back to a time when dinosaurs still walked across the land. The Colorado River here typically appears emerald green, but can shift to deep blue or near black, depending on depth and sunlight, while the river continues to erode the rock and slowly reshape the bend over time. Red Beach in Panjin is a large-scale protected wetland defined by expansive reed marshes and a highly intact tidal ecosystem. The red coloration comes from the plant sueda, which grows green from April to May and remains that way through summer. As autumn arrives between September and October, salt accumulation and pigment changes turn the vegetation from deep red to dark purple. The reserve supports more than 260 bird species, including the rare red-crowned crane, along with nearly 400 wildlife species. Visitors walk along elevated wooden boardwalks, designed to protect the fragile sueda grass and muddy substrate below. Separated by a single road, the landscape shifts abruptly between harsh red wetlands and cultivated farmland shaped by human activity. The avenue of the baobabs is immediately striking, because the massive trees appear inverted, with swollen trunks and sparse crowns that resemble roots reaching into the sky. This iconic landscape is located in Madagascar and is considered one of the country's most recognizable natural landmarks. The trees belong to the species Adansonia grandidieri, an endemic baobab found only on Madagascar and nowhere else on Earth. Each baobab has a hollow internal structure capable of storing up to 31,700 gallons of water, allowing the tree to survive prolonged and extreme dry seasons. This large volume of stored water causes the trunks to expand dramatically, forming enormous cylindrical structures that account for most of the tree's mass. In local tradition, the unusual form of the baobabs is explained by a legend in which the trees were planted upside down by the gods, reflecting a cultural interpretation of this distinctive natural phenomenon. The Dead Sea is an ancient salt lake located between Jordan and Israel, holding the record as the lowest point on Earth's surface, about 1,412 feet below sea level. Its salinity exceeds 34%, nearly 10 times that of ocean water, making it nearly uninhabitable for most life forms. With no natural outflow, water escapes only through evaporation, leaving behind thick, white salt crusts and unusually high concentrations of minerals. Each year, the lake shrinks by more than 3 feet due to climate change and upstream water extraction from the Jordan River. Hundreds of large sinkholes are appearing along its shores as underground freshwater dissolves salt layers, increasing the risk of widespread geological collapse. Because of the extreme salinity, no boats can operate normally, and humans float effortlessly on the surface without the ability to sink. Petra is also known as the Rose City because its sandstone shifts from pink to red to orange depending on the sunlight throughout the day. About 85% of this ancient city remains buried beneath desert soil and has yet to be excavated. Carving pillars up to 130 feet tall with near-perfect accuracy on natural stone surfaces without any modern tools remains an unresolved feat of ancient engineering. The most iconic facades you see today, such as the Treasury, are actually massive tombs, not palaces or residences. Petra also features a massive Roman-style theatre carved directly into the cliff, with a seating capacity between 3,000 and 8,500 people. In 2007, more than 100 million people worldwide voted Petra into the list of new 7 wonders of the world. Tim. Surreal Lakes is a glacial system of 7 lakes located in the Surreal Mountains of southwestern Bulgaria, sitting between 5,990 feet and 8,200 feet above sea level. The lakes were formed during the last ice age, when ancient glaciers carved deep basins into the mountain, now filled with meltwater and connected by small streams and low waterfalls. Each lake has a unique name based on its shape, such as the tear, the kidney, and the eye, the deepest lake in the Balkans, with a depth of nearly 121 feet. In summer, melting snow from surrounding peaks flows through rocky channels, forming a cascading drainage system linking all 7 lakes. During winter, the entire region freezes for months, with temperatures regularly dropping below 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The surrounding limestone terrain naturally filters the water, keeping the lakes crystal clear and perfectly reflective. Jangi Dangxia landform is located in Gansu province and is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site due to its visually extreme geological structure. The entire landscape is formed from layered sandstone and mineral deposits accumulated over roughly 24 million years later, uplifted and eroded to expose vivid bands of red, yellow, orange, green, white, and silver gray. After rainfall, moisture saturates the rock surface and intensifies mineral pigments, making the colors appear significantly more saturated than in dry conditions. From above, especially during hot air balloon flights, the Danxia terrain appears as a massive geological cross-section with parallel color layers stretching across the mountains. At ground level, wooden boardwalks trace along the bare sandstone slopes, allowing close observation of the exposed formations. With no vegetation cover and minimal biological sound, the environment is dominated solely by windrock and heat-driven color fields, creating the impression of a non-terrestrial surface. Caño Cristales is a river located within Serranía de la Macarena National Park in Colombia and stretches for about 62 miles. The river is known by names such as the River of Five Colors or the Liquid Rainbow, due to a rare color phenomenon along its channel. During specific periods of the year, the surface of Caño Cristales displays distinct bands of red, yellow, green, blue, and black along the flowing water. The red coloration of the river comes from a native aquatic plant called Macarinia clavigera, which changes color when sunlight levels and water depth reach suitable conditions. The riverbed contains numerous deep circular potholes formed as small stones rotate under the force of fast-moving water over long periods of time. The water is extremely pure and transparent, allowing clear visibility to the bottom. Yet the lack of nutrients and sediment means the river supports almost no fish life. Ijen crater is an active volcano in eastern Java Island known for containing the world's largest acidic lake with turquoise-colored water and a depth of over 650 feet. The lake sits at an elevation of about 7,200 feet above sea level and is filled with concentrated sulfuric acid, making the water extremely corrosive. At night, sulfur gases escaping from the crater ignite under high heat, producing a strange blue flame that flows down the mountain like ghostly fire. The toxic gas levels are so high that visitors must wear gas masks when approaching the crater's edge. Uniquely, dozens of local workers still extract sulfur manually right next to the crater, carrying heavy sulfur chunks on their bare shoulders along steep mountain paths. Navajo, also known as Shipwreck Beach, is one of the most iconic landmarks in Greece and globally recognized for its one-of-a-kind scenery. Resting in the middle of soft white sand is the wreck of the Panayotis, stranded since 1980. Forming a legendary image featured on countless postcards and even major films. The ship itself altered the water flow, causing sand to accumulate at an incredible rate, rapidly creating the entire beach in just a few years. Under constant exposure to high-speed winds carrying salt and fine sand, the wreck is being eroded in a strange way, slowly fossilizing into the ground. Sulfur and calcium-rich water leaking from nearby limestone caves gives the sea its signature electric blue color, unlike anywhere else. Navajo is also one of the most dangerous base jumping locations on Earth, where a single gust of wind can send a person crashing fatally into the vertical cliff face. The Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Rishat structure, is a globally recognized geological formation with a spiral shape that resembles a giant stationary storm in the Sahara Desert. This natural formation spans about 25 miles in diameter, so large it can only be fully seen from satellites, and was once mistaken for a meteorite impact crater. Its concentric rings display near-perfect geometric precision, a rare occurrence in nature that continues to puzzle geologists worldwide. The Blue Lagoon is not a natural hot spring, but was formed in 1976 from excess water discharged by the adjacent Svartsengi geothermal power plant. Scientists have discovered blue-green algae and unique bacteria that survive only here due to the extremely high mineral concentration and alkalinity. If you scoop the water into a glass, it appears milky white, and the blue color, seen by the eye, comes from sunlight reflecting off silica particles. The water is drawn from more than 6,500 feet underground, and at the source reaches 464 degrees Fahrenheit, about 2.5 times the normal boiling point. The fact that humans can comfortably bathe in this flow from the underworld after only a few stages of heat treatment is a clear demonstration of an unusual energy balance. Despite receiving thousands of visitors every day, the lagoon requires no chemical cleaning because 6 million liters of water are naturally replaced every 40 hours. Chocolate Hills is a cluster of more than 1,200 uniformly shaped conical hills, each standing between 100 and 160 feet tall, located in the central part of Bohol Island, Philippines. During the rainy season, the hills are covered in lush green grass, but in the dry season, they turn a consistent brown color, resembling thousands of giant chocolate mounds scattered across the landscape. What makes them unique is the remarkable uniformity in both size and spacing, without forming any continuous ridgelines or connected landforms. Geologists identify the area as a prime example of conical karst topography formed by the long-term dissolution of limestone, combined with erosion and geological uplift. However, the exact mechanism behind the consistent shape and distribution of the hills remains unexplained and continues to be an open subject of research. Hand of the Desert stands in the Atacama Desert, a region recorded as the driest place on Earth. The structure rises alone from the sand in an area with almost no human presence, taking the form of a giant hand emerging from the ground. The hand measures exactly 36 feet in height, roughly equivalent to a 4-story building, with its base anchored deep beneath the sand to withstand frequent dust storms. The monument was constructed in 1992, requiring the transport of large amounts of steel and concrete deep into a desert with minimal transportation infrastructure. Victoria Falls lies along the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, and is known as the largest curtain of falling water in the world due to its immense volume and width. Its mist column rises up to 1,600 feet, making the scene from a distance resemble a slow-motion nuclear explosion unfolding in the rainforest. The sound of the crashing water is so intense that it can be heard from as far as 25 miles away. It is also one of the rare places on Earth where you can witness a lunar rainbow, a nighttime phenomenon created when moonlight reflects through the mist. During peak season, about 130 million gallons of water plunge into the gorge every minute, roughly equivalent to 200 Olympic-sized swimming pools in just 60 seconds. Over the past 100,000 years, the falls have eroded the bedrock and retreated upstream, carving through 8 successive gorges, and what you see today is its 8th formation. Perito Moreno is known for being part of the southern Patagonian icefield, which holds the 3rd largest freshwater reserve on Earth. While more than 95% of glaciers around the world are melting like candles in flame, Perito Moreno continues to grow, or at least maintains, a rare state of stable balance. Moving at a pace of about 6 feet per day, this glacier generates massive pressure, capable of grinding even the hardest rocks beneath the lake into fine powder. The exposed ice above the water surface averages about 240 feet tall, roughly equal to a 25-story building. More than 30 people have died here in the past after standing too close during ice collapses, and now a wooden platform system has been built to keep visitors at a safe distance. Salar de Uyuni lies in southwestern Bolivia and is the largest salt flat on Earth, covering over 3,800 square miles, formed from the transformation of ancient lakes. During the rainy season, from roughly December through March, a thin layer of water spreads across the perfectly flat surface, turning the entire plain into a massive sky mirror. In the dry season, evaporation leaves behind a bright white salt crust fractured into endless hexagonal patterns stretching to the horizon. Because conventional building materials are scarce, hotels here are constructed from locally cut salt blocks used for walls, ceilings, furniture, and beds. Despite the extreme salinity, the flats become a major breeding ground for 3 species of South American flamingos each year around November. Easter Island is one of the most isolated islands on Earth and is famous for nearly 1,000 giant stone statues called moai scattered across its surface. Many of the statues have been buried over centuries, leaving their bodies underground and only their heads exposed above the soil. All moai were carved entirely by hand from volcanic stone using traditional handheld tools called toki, and the largest one, measuring about 69 feet tall and weighing around 600,000 pounds, still lies unfinished in the quarry. Hidden Beach in the Islas Marietas is unexpected because a white sand beach sits entirely inside a massive sinkhole with an open roof facing the sky. The beach is not formed purely by natural processes, as the sinkholes are believed to result from Mexican government bomb tests in the early 20th century, combined with long-term limestone erosion. Unlike typical beaches that open toward the ocean, Hidden Beach is located deep within the body of the island and enclosed by steep rock walls. Direct access by foot or boat is impossible. An entry is only possible by swimming or kayaking through a rock tunnel measuring about 80 feet in length that connects the beach to the open sea. Mont Saint-Michel lies off the coast of Normandy in France and began construction in the 8th century when humans transformed a small granite island into a large monastic and fortress complex. The site is unique because tidal changes can turn the entire structure into a completely isolated island within just a few hours. Over time, Benedictine monks and builders expanded the complex with churches, monasteries, Gothic halls, and reinforced defensive structures. The surrounding walls, watchtowers, and drawbridges turned the island into a highly defensible fortress that never fell even during the 100 Years' War. Despite receiving millions of visitors each year, the number of permanent residents on the island today remains only around 30 to 40 people, including monks and a small civilian population. Mount Roraima is a massive tabletop mountain known as a tepui, estimated to be around 2 billion years old, located at the exact border intersection of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana. Sheer cliffs rising up to about 1,300 feet surround the plateau, forming near vertical walls that made early ascent attempts nearly impossible. The summit's surface consists mainly of heavily eroded dark sandstone, creating a harsh and isolated landscape separated from the lowlands below. Rain falls on the plateau almost every day of the year, filling natural rock basins with clear rainwater and covering sections of the surface with white quartz crystals. Intense rainfall drives water over the cliff edges, producing waterfalls that plunge hundreds of feet straight down the rock faces. Cenote Iqquil is a natural sinkhole about 130 feet deep, comparable to a 13-story building with an opening nearly 200 feet wide. During the ancient Maya period, this water pit served as a sacrificial site where prisoners and virgins were thrown down as offerings to the gods. Archaeological excavations at the bottom of the cenote uncovered hundreds of human skeletons, along with numerous gold artifacts. The water inside Cenote Iqquil maintains a stable temperature of about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of outside weather conditions. Today, Cenote Iqquil functions both as a major tourist attraction, a former venue for Red Bull cliff diving from a height of about 90 feet, and a connected node within a vast underground river system beneath the Yucatan Peninsula. Reynis Fjara Black Sand Beach is a black sand beach located along the southern coast of Iceland and is widely regarded as one of the most famous black sand beaches in the world. The beach formed when molten lava flowed into the ocean, cooled instantly upon contact with cold seawater, and was then eroded by waves over thousands of years into fine, glossy black sand. The most striking visual feature of Reynisfjara is the steep basalt cliffs composed of naturally stacked hexagonal stone columns. Offshore, sharp rock pillars rise directly from the sea, creating distinct coastal landmarks. The site has served as a filming location for major productions including Game of Thrones, Star Wars Rogue One, and Noah. Seawater temperatures at Reynisfjara remain extremely cold and are combined with strong currents, while occasional sudden waves surge much farther inland than expected and can pull people into the ocean, making swimming highly dangerous. Kirkjufell Mountain is considered the most photographed mountain in Iceland due to its balanced, isolated, and nearly symmetrical vertical shape. Kirkjufell is not a single rock mass, but is composed of stacked layers of volcanic and sedimentary rock, representing different periods of Earth's geological activity. Directly in front of the mountain, small waterfalls flow continuously, forming a natural foreground commonly captured from a fixed viewing angle. Despite its modest height, climbing Kirkjufell is considered hazardous because of steep slopes and slippery surfaces, limiting attempts to experienced climbers only. The mountain appeared in the television series Game of Thrones under the name Arrowhead Mountain. Algar de Benagil is located in the Algarve region of southern Portugal and is a sea cave formed by ocean waves eroding limestone cliffs over millions of years. The most distinctive feature of Benagil Cave is a large circular opening in its ceiling, commonly known as the Eye, which allows sunlight to pass directly into the interior. This vertical light beam illuminates a patch of golden sand inside the cave, a rare feature among sea caves that usually contain only water. Benagil Cave has two entrances accessible from the sea and no access route from land. The inner walls of the cave are composed of layered limestone, displaying visible bands of yellow amber and warm earth tones. To observe the interior, space access is limited to boats, kayaks, or stand-up paddleboards approaching from offshore waters. Champagne Pool is a natural geothermal hot spring located in the Waiotapu thermal area on New Zealand's North Island, defined by constant surface bubbling. The fine bubbles continuously rising are carbon dioxide gas released from deep geothermal systems below. A vivid orange ring around the pool edge is formed not by algae, but by mineral precipitation of antimony and arsenic. The central watercolor shifts between emerald green and blue depending on sunlight angle filtered through dense sulfur vapor. On cold or humid days, steam becomes so thick that visibility drops to just a few feet, accompanied by the distinct rotten egg odor of sulfur gas. Lake Baikal is the oldest and deepest freshwater lake on Earth, located in southern Siberia of Russia, with a maximum depth of about 5,385 feet and containing nearly 20% of the planet's unfrozen fresh water. The lake supports more than 3,700 species of plants and animals, including over 2,500 endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. One of the most notable endemic animals is the Baikal seal, which is the only freshwater seal species known in the world. During winter, the lake's surface freezes into clear, turquoise ice formations created by the purity and crystalline structure of the water. Baikal's water reaches near distilled quality due to trillions of microscopic episcura crustaceans that function as a continuous biological filtration system, removing bacteria and algae. Las Coloradas is surprising because its water appears deep pink rather than natural blue or green, giving the surface the look of artificially colored pools. site is actually a small fishing village on the northeastern tip of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and functions as a system of man-made salt ponds used for industrial salt production. The pink coloration comes from extremely high concentrations of Dunaliella salina, algae and brine shrimp that multiply as water evaporates under intense heat. Salt levels in the ponds are very high, which is why swimming is prohibited to prevent skin irritation and to protect the specialized microbial ecosystem. White Desert is a vast limestone desert in North Africa, globally recognized for its pure white landscape that appears unnatural within a hot desert environment. Unlike typical yellow or red deserts, the terrain here is dominated by white limestone formed from ancient marine sediments uplifted from the ocean floor tens of millions of years ago. Wind and sand erosion over immense time scales sculpted the rock into extreme shapes such as mushroom pillars, standing columns, domes, and towers with narrow stems and oversized caps. The surface color shifts hour by hour, changing from bright white at midday to pale yellow in the afternoon, and then to purple, pink, and silvery blue tones as night approaches. In certain zones, the ground is not fine sand, but exposed quartz and mineral crystals that sparkle intensely under sunlight. This clear marine origin makes White Desert one of the rare land deserts that still preserves unmistakable traces of an ancient ocean. Cinque Terre is a coastal area along the Mediterranean Sea in Italy, where clusters of colorful houses are built directly onto steep cliffs above the water. All residential structures in Sunkran were constructed by hand on difficult terrain, without the use of modern machinery for centuries. The compact buildings are painted in bright colors and arranged tightly along the steep slopes, remaining structurally stable over time despite constant exposure to sea winds and gravity. The coastal ecosystem includes native vineyards, Mediterranean shrubs, and seabirds that nest and live on the rocky outcrops. For much of its history, the entire area remained isolated from the outside world and could only be accessed by boat or on foot. Cinque Terre demonstrates how permanent human settlement can exist within a coastal landscape shaped by steep terrain and limited buildable space. Glass Beach is unexpected because its surface is not sand, but billions of smooth glass pebbles formed from human waste. These glass pieces developed as discarded bottles, and objects were continuously worn down by Pacific Ocean waves, removing all sharp edges over decades. The origin of this glass layer dates back to the early 20th century, around 1906, when residents of Fort Bragg dumped trash directly over coastal cliffs. The area was once known as the Dumps due to the presence of glass household debris and even old automobiles. Giant's Causeway stands out for its more than 40,000 hexagonal basalt columns packed tightly together, forming a massive geometric foundation created by cooling lava and time. The rock type here is tholitic basalt, which is rare on continental surfaces, but dominates the lava plains found on the Moon. Some columns rise up to about 40 feet, equivalent to a 4-story building, and the anomaly is that they are not stacked blocks, but continuous pillars penetrating deep through multiple geological layers. As light conditions shift, the stone color transitions from blue-gray to dark gold, revealing crystal-like textures within the basalt. With near-perfect symmetry and uncommon scale, Giant's Causeway presents a geological structure that appears to defy ordinary physical logic. Pamukkale is a geological wonder of Turkey, where white limestone terraces have formed continuously for over 2,000 years from calcium-rich mineral water flowing down the mountainside. As the mineral water reaches the surface and meets open-air calcium carbonate, precipitates and accumulates at an average rate of about 0.1 inches per year, creating thin yet durable travertine layers. The resulting travertine structure is porous, but hard, strongly reflecting sunlight and causing the slope to appear intensely bright during the day. From a distance, the entire landscape resembles a frozen snowfield, though it is actually a thick mineral formation built up over thousands of years. Historical records from the Roman era describe visitors believing these white terraces to be stairways to the sky, where mineral water was regarded as a sacred source of health and purification. Grand Prismatic Spring is the largest hot spring in the United States and ranks among the largest hot springs in the world. Its most defining feature is the layered color spectrum spreading outward in bands of red, orange, yellow-green, and deep blue, giving rise to the name prismatic, based on light dispersion. These colors are not caused by artificial chemicals, but are produced by thermophilic bacteria living in the hot water. As water temperature decreases, from the center outward different bacterial communities thrive at different thermal zones, forming distinct color rings. Because the water remains extremely hot, steam constantly rises from the surface, combining with the vivid colors below to create a landscape often described as otherworldly or unlike any familiar terrain on Earth. Lake Hillier is a vivid pink salt lake located on Middle Island in the Recherche Archipelago off the southern coast of Western Australia. What makes the lake exceptional is that the pink color belongs to the water itself rather than reflection or lighting effects, and the hue remains unchanged even when the water is removed from the lake. From an aerial perspective, the lake forms a sharp, visual contrast where bright pink water is separated from deep blue ocean by a strip of white sand and green forest. Scientific studies attribute the coloration to a combination of Dunaliella salina, algae, and salt-loving halobacteria thriving in extreme saline conditions. Salt concentration here reaches 8 to 10 times that of normal seawater, preventing any fish from surviving and leaving only microorganisms as permanent residents. The Arashiyama Bamboo Grove is one of Kyoto's most iconic landmarks, and also one of the most photographed locations in all of Japan. The bamboo here can grow nearly 3 feet taller in just 24 hours, and if you stand still long enough, you might actually sense them growing. This bamboo forest produces over 35% more oxygen and absorbs significantly more CO2 than a typical forest of hardwood trees covering the same area. Due to the dense canopy and rapid nutrient uptake of bamboo, almost no other plant species can survive beneath its shade. The sound of rustling and clashing bamboo has been officially listed by the Japanese government as one of the 100 sounds to be preserved. Kawachi Wisteria Garden is considered one of the most stunning wisteria displays in the world, located in Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan. Beyond the classic purple, the garden features 22 different varieties of wisteria in shades of white, blue-pink, light, violet, and deep purple. During peak bloom, millions of flower clusters, each reaching up to 3 feet long, create a massive canopy suspended above visitors' heads. Its most iconic feature is a flower tunnel stretching over 300 feet, where every step feels like walking into an alternate world. The scent of the wisteria here is rich yet delicate, often compared to a high-end natural perfume no machine could replicate. Monument Valley is an iconic desert landscape in the American Southwest, where massive sandstone towers and flat-topped buttes rise abruptly from an otherwise level plain. Their vivid red color comes from iron oxide that has oxidized over millions of years, similar to the natural rusting process seen in metal. Over roughly 50 million years, wind and rainfall eroded about 90% of the original rock volume, leaving only the hardest cores standing in the desert. Some of these sandstone columns reach heights comparable to a 40-story building, yet remain surprisingly thin, enduring powerful sandstorms and constant erosion without collapsing. The driest part of the region was actually shaped by water, as every red grain of sand today was once sediment resting on the floor of an ancient prehistoric ocean. Around 10 Navajo families still live inside the valley, and many homes do not have electricity or running water to preserve their traditional way of life. The Blue Grotto is one of the most famous sea caves in the world, located on Italy's Capri Island, and can only be entered by small boats passing through a rock opening less than 3 feet high. The cave is about 200 feet long and 80 feet wide, but the entrance is so narrow that visitors must lie flat on the wooden boat floor to get inside. Sunlight enters through an underwater opening, then scatters and reflects off the cave walls from below, creating the signature glowing blue color that lights up the water in darkness. When you touch the surface, every movement turns silver and sparkles intensely due to reflected air bubbles, while the water itself glows with a vivid neon blue. Because of tidal pressure and wave activity, the entrance is only safely accessible for a few hours each day and remains violently turbulent the rest of the time. Ban Jok Waterfall is the 4th largest waterfall in the world and sits in Cao Bang Province, directly on the natural border between Vietnam and China. Instead of dropping in a single vertical sheet, the water flows over limestone steps, forming 3 distinct tiers, stacked like layers of white silk. Within just a few weeks, the entire system can shift from jade green to blood red, as iron-rich minerals are washed out from ancient geological layers. Normally, water follows the shortest path downward, but at Ban Jok, the limestone terrain forces the flow to bend and cascade across overlapping terraces. In the rocky pockets near the violent edge, People still maneuver fragile bamboo rafts directly into the swirling zone to fish. Scientists believe blind cave-dwelling fish may live deep below, surviving in total darkness and tolerating constantly changing water pressure. Reed Flute Cave is known as the Palace of Natural Art for its massive scale and elaborate multicolored lighting system that highlights every layer of stalactites and stalagmites. Although known since ancient times, the cave disappeared from maps and was only rediscovered in the 1940s by a group of refugees. Inside lies a chamber called the Dragon King's Crystal Palace, large enough to hold more than 1,000 people at the same time without a single artificial support column. Several mystical scenes in the classic 1986 journey to the humid, oxygen-poor environment to escape wartime bombing. The cave is also known as the State Guest Cave because it has hosted hundreds of world leaders, including US Presidents Richard Nixon and Jimmy Carter. Verdon Gorge is a canyon about 25 miles long and up to 2,300 feet deep, carved over millions of years by the Verdon River through limestone layers. These towering cliffs were not formed from solid rock, but are accumulations of seashells, corals, and marine organisms from the Jurassic era. The gorge is world famous for its vivid turquoise water, a color caused by fluoride minerals and microalgae suspended in the flow. A popular way to explore is by kayaking upstream from Lake St. Croix, or hiking treacherous trails, climbing steep iron ladders, and passing through pitch-black tunnels hundreds of feet long without natural light. Valle de la Luna is a hyper-arid desert valley in Chile where compressed sediment layers and eroded ridges stretch into wave-like surfaces spanning dozens of miles. Some parts of this valley have never recorded rainfall for several hundred years, resulting in a barren landscape devoid of vegetation, animals, or any living organisms. In the central zones, scientists have confirmed the existence of completely sterile soil free of bacteria, fungi, or any detectable microorganisms. Even though Earth is a planet made up of 70% water, humidity sensors here have repeatedly registered absolute 0% moisture. In the past, salt miners living in the area endured such extreme conditions that their sweat evaporated instantly, leaving behind thin white layers of salt on their skin. Fly geyser is an extremely rare geothermal phenomenon located in the Black Rock Desert of Nevada, where a human-drilled well evolved into a living, natural structure. In 1964, geothermal drilling accidentally tapped a deep, hot water source, and because the well was never fully sealed underground, pressure forced water to erupt continuously at the surface. The geyser erupts non-stop, 24 hours a day, sending water up to about 5 feet high from multiple active vents. Its vivid red, orange, yellow, and green colors are produced not by rock, but by thermophilic algae thriving in mineral-rich hot water. Lofoten is globally famous for its surreal mix of sharp mountain peaks rising straight from the sea and white sandy beaches with turquoise water that looks tropical. From late May to mid-July, the sun never sets here, and you can hike or paddle at midnight under full daylight. Thanks to a warm ocean current, the seawater never freezes in winter, and the climate remains relatively mild despite its Arctic location. What makes the terrain unique is that the mountains rise vertically rather than sloping gently, resembling giant shark teeth plunging into the ocean. One small island holds a football field nestled between cliffs and sea, famous worldwide, despite having no spectator stands. This is also the place with the highest density of white-tailed eagles on Earth, often seen soaring overhead while diving for fish. Kelimutu is a group of 3 volcanic crater lakes in Indonesia, globally known for their unpredictable color-changing phenomenon. These three lakes are separated by thin, rocky ridges just a few dozen feet apart, yet each contains a completely distinct chemical ecosystem where one lake can appear bright red while its neighbor glows green. Unlike other color-shifting lakes influenced by seasons or sunlight, Kelimutu's hues change based on fluctuations in underground gas and mineral content. This transformation is so erratic that even scientists cannot predict when or what color the lakes will turn next. At the bottom lies a highly toxic mixture of concentrated sulfuric acid, heavy metal salts, and volatile minerals, creating an environment where no life can survive. The surreal beauty of Kelimutu was once featured on Indonesia's old 5,000 rupiah banknote, representing a geological symbol unlike any other. Skeleton Coast is a long and extremely harsh shoreline in northwestern Namibia, recognized globally as one of the most dangerous and unusual coastal regions on Earth. It is one of the rare places where desert elephants survive with longer legs and larger feet, adapted for hot sand and the ability to go without water for up to 3 days. Here, the hyper-arid Namib Desert meets the cold Atlantic Ocean directly with no buffer zone or vegetation in between. More than 1,000 shipwrecks lie scattered along the coast, some remaining for decades and becoming shelter for seabirds and seals. In this region, desert lions have learned to hunt seals and seabirds along the shoreline to survive the scarcity of prey. Portuguese sailors once called it the Gates of Hell because when a ship ran aground, deadly waves blocked the front, while the waterless desert cut off escape from behind. Uluru is a massive sandstone monolith rising 1,142 feet above ground, with a circumference of nearly 6 miles, but most of its volume is actually buried several miles underground. In the late afternoon, the rock glows a vivid red due to light reflecting off feldspar crystals inside the sandstone layer. Up close, its surface is rugged and covered with caves, cracks, holes, and rain channels running from top to base. Despite being in an arid region, rare heavy rains can trigger dozens of white waterfalls cascading down the red rock. Uluru is a sacred site to the Anangu people, with hundreds of rock shelters containing ancient paintings and ceremonial traces preserved through generations. Since 2019, climbing Uluru has been permanently banned to protect both its cultural significance and fragile ecosystem. Milford Sound is often called the eighth wonder of the world due to its dramatic natural scenery and the nearly vertical granite cliffs that rise more than 4,000 feet directly from sea level. During heavy rain, the hundreds-foot waterfalls can be blown upward by strong winds instead of falling normally. Rainwater mixed with tannins from forest vegetation creates a reddish-brown, freshwater layer about 30 feet thick that sits above the saltwater blocking sunlight and allowing deep-sea species to live near the surface. Because of these unusual conditions, black coral, normally found hundreds of feet deep, thrives here in water only a few feet below the surface. Despite its global fame, Milford Sound is accessed by a single road that is frequently closed in winter due to avalanches and hailstorms. The Pinnacles is a limestone desert in Western Australia where thousands of natural rock pillars rise from the golden sand, some reaching up to 12 feet tall like stone spears. These formations were created from accumulated seashell deposits over 25,000 years ago, when the area was still submerged under the ocean. As the sea receded, wind and rain eroded the softer surrounding soil, exposing the hardened limestone structures. Each pillar has a unique shape, with some sharp like blades, others rounded or resembling unfinished sculptures or ancient monuments. Beneath the sand lies a layer of underground microorganisms that help retain moisture and stabilize the terrain in this dry environment. In spring, hundreds of wildflower species bloom among the rocks, creating a vivid contrast between harsh geology and temporary biological life. Lofoten is globally famous for its surreal mix of sharp mountain peaks rising straight from the sea and white sandy beaches with turquoise water that looks tropical. From late May to mid-July, the sun never sets here, and you can hike or paddle at midnight under full daylight. Thanks to a warm ocean current, the seawater never freezes in winter, and the climate remains relatively mild despite its Arctic location. What makes the terrain unique is that the mountains rise vertically, rather than sloping gently, resembling giant shark teeth plunging into the ocean. This is also the place with the highest density of white-tailed eagles on Earth, often seen soaring overhead while diving for fish. Sundung Cave is globally recognized as the largest natural cave on Earth, with dimensions that exceed all conventional definitions. Some chambers rise more than 650 feet high and stretch over 500 feet wide, large enough to fit an entire skyscraper, making the term cave feel inadequate. Two enormous sinkholes in the collapsed ceiling allow sunlight to pour hundreds of feet down, creating a primeval jungle deep inside the cavern. Scientists have also found giant natural cave pearls here, some reaching the size of a baseball. Although it is the largest cave on the planet, fewer people have reached the center of Sundung than have summited Mount Everest, because its interior is so fragile and extreme that human access must be strictly limited. Chingi de Bemaraha is known as the Stone Forest, with the word Tsingi in the Malagasy language meaning a place where walking barefoot is impossible, directly describing its sharp limestone terrain. The entire maze of vertical limestone towers was once a coral reef beneath the sea about 200 million years ago, before sea levels dropped, and the Earth's crust uplifted the formation. Long-term rainfall erosion carved the softer limestone, leaving behind millions of razor-sharp stone spires rising straight upward. This terrain severely restricts human movement, while sifaka lemurs use the stone points as travel routes thanks to thick padded soles on their feet. On top of the dry rock pinnacles, many plant species develop swollen, bottle-shaped trunks to store water for survival in extreme conditions. The protected area now contains walking trails that allow controlled access to the limestone formations, hidden caves, and endemic wildlife within Madagascar's rugged landscape. Antelope Canyon is striking because sunlight here does not simply illuminate the space, but forms clearly visible light beams inside a narrow and dark rock corridor. This effect occurs when sunlight passes through dust-filled air within the canyon, producing sharply defined vertical columns of light. The canyon walls are composed of Navajo sandstone continuously sculpted by flash floods and wind over millions of years into smooth, flowing surfaces. A black and white photograph capturing one of these light beams, titled Phantom by photographer Peter Lick, was sold for $6.5 million, linking the canyon to a record-breaking commercial value in photography. The site consists of two main sections: Upper Antelope Canyon, known for direct overhead sunlight at midday, and Lower Antelope Canyon, which features a more complex layout supported by metal stair systems for access. The underwater waterfall is a world-famous optical illusion, often referred to as an ocean waterfall, due to its shape resembling a massive cascade plunging into the sea floor. Although your eyes insist that a real waterfall is dropping downward, no water is actually falling vertically. It is simply sand being pulled by powerful ocean currents. While the coastal shelf is only about 500 feet deep, the apparent waterfall mouth drops into an abyss nearly 13,000 feet deep, equal to stacking 12 Burj Khalifa towers on top of one another without reaching the bottom. Continuous ocean currents keep dragging sand downward, making the waterfall operate 24 hours a day all year long without ever running dry. Because it is only sand moving below the surface, you can safely swim, surf, or paddleboard right above the waterfall without any risk of being pulled into the depths. Hamilton Pool Preserve is a natural reserve located in Travis County, Texas, where a natural pool exists inside a partially collapsed limestone grotto. The formation occurred thousands of years ago when the dome of an underground river collapsed due to long-term erosion, exposing a rock-enclosed basin. Because of this collapse origin, the pool floor has uneven depth, with its deepest point exceeding 23 feet. The water displays a distinct emerald green color surrounded by large rock formations and native vegetation, such as ferns and moss, clinging to moist cliff walls. Even during the driest Texas summers, a waterfall about 50 feet high continues to drop from the limestone rim above and maintains a small but persistent flow. You can swim out to the waterfall area, where water cascades down from a height of 15 meters, feeling the natural jets of water hitting you amidst a surrounding cliff setting is an incredibly refreshing experience rarely found elsewhere. Marble caves are known for walls whose colors are not fixed but change with water levels and seasons, shifting between turquoise light, blue, gray, white, and occasionally pale pink. The entire cave system is formed from massive marble rock, with an estimated total mass of about 5 billion tons. The vivid blue color seen on the cave walls does not come solely from the stone, but from light reflecting off the intensely blue lake water onto the marble surfaces. The lake's color is produced by fine glacial sediment particles suspended in the water, scattering and filtering sunlight. Marble caves cannot be reached on foot, and the only way to experience them is by traveling in small boats or kayaks that move close to the cave walls. Sossusvlei is a clay and salt pan located deep within the Namib Desert, completely surrounded by massive red sand dunes. The name Sossusvlei comes from local language terms where Sossus refers to a place where rivers are blocked by desert sand and disappear, and Vlai describes a seasonal wet depression. The area is known for hosting the tallest red sand dunes on Earth, where sand color shifts from pale pink to orange and deep red, depending on sunlight angle throughout the day. Four contrasting colors coexist in the same landscape, including white clay ground, blackened dead trees, red dunes, and a deep blue sky. The sand grains at Sossusvlei are about 5 million years old and were transported from distant inland regions by ancient winds and water systems. Inside the clay pan stand tree trunks that have remained dead for over 900 years, preserved in place by extreme dryness that prevents decomposition. Whitehaven Beach is a coastal stretch about 4 miles long, located within a strictly protected national park area off the coast of Queensland, Australia. The sand at Whitehaven contains up to 98% nearly pure silica, giving it a bright white appearance under direct sunlight. This silica does not retain heat, allowing the sand to remain cool even during extreme hot conditions and making barefoot walking possible without burning. At the northern section of the beach, where tidal movements are strongest, white sand and turquoise seawater do not fully mix, but form visible, swirling patterns across the surface. Whitehaven Beach is frequently ranked as the most beautiful beach in Australia and often tops global beach rankings by major travel platforms. Rakottsbrücke, also known as the Devil's Bridge, forms a complete stone circle when its semicircular arch is reflected on the calm surface of Rakotsy Lake. This effect occurs because the bridge was engineered with extreme geometric precision, allowing the real structure and its reflection to close into a full 360-degree ring from any viewing angle. The bridge is located in the Saxony region of Germany and was constructed around 1860 using hexagonal basalt stones formed from cooled volcanic lava. Surrounding the bridge are sharp rock formations rising from the water and shoreline, deliberately arranged to resemble devil's teeth or natural cave stalactites. Banff National Park is located at the core of the Rocky Mountains in Alberta and became Canada's first national park in 1885, making it the third oldest national park in the world after Yellowstone in the United States and Royal National Park in Australia. Lake Louise lies deep within the park and stands out as its most recognizable feature due to its unusual watercolor. The turquoise to light blue color of Lake Louise is caused by rock flour, fine mineral particles created by glacial erosion that flow into the lake and reflect sunlight. Before being named after Princess Louise Caroline Alberta, daughter of Queen Victoria, the lake was originally known as Emerald Lake because of its coloration. Even during summer months, the water temperature of Lake Louise rarely exceeds 39 degrees Fahrenheit, indicating its direct glacial origin. Las Lajas Sanctuary is a Catholic church located inside the Guaitara River Canyon, where the structure is built directly on a stone bridge spanning the gorge. The sanctuary rises about 330 feet above the riverbed instead of standing on flat ground like most religious buildings. Construction lasted 33 years, from 1916 to 1949, under steep terrain and severely limited access conditions. The church facade is supported by a stone bridge approximately 165 feet high, which also serves as the only passage connecting the site to the opposite side of the canyon. Beneath the main structure lies a system of crypts and auxiliary levels carved deep into the rock walls. These underground sections help distribute the building's weight and provide space for storing religious and historical artifacts. Iguazu Falls is the largest waterfall system in the world and is frequently listed among the new 7 natural wonders. It is not a single cascade, but a network of more than 270 separate falls stretching nearly 2 miles along the border of Argentina and Brazil. This structure was formed by a massive volcanic eruption around 130 million years ago, leaving a huge geological fault on Earth's surface. On average, about 1,500 cubic meters of water drop every second, and during peak floods, the kinetic energy equals dozens of nuclear explosions occurring continuously each hour. A bird species called the great dusky swift can dive straight through the thick water curtain to nest behind the falls. In 1978, a severe drought caused the entire waterfall system to stop flowing for 28 days, exposing a massive dry stone wall in the middle of the rainforest. Melisani Cave stands out because an open-air lake exists inside the cavern, where sunlight reaches the water directly through a massive natural skylight. This skylight was formed after a major earthquake caused the cave roof to collapse centuries ago, permanently altering the structure of the cave. Sections of Melisani Cave that remain covered still contain stalactites and stalagmites with varied shapes formed over long geological periods. The water inside the cave is a rare mixture of seawater flowing underground from the opposite side of the island and fresh water from deep subterranean springs. The only way to explore the lake is by small wooden boats operated by local rowers, as there is no underwater walking path around the basin. Machu Picchu, known as the Lost City of the Incas, was built in the 15th century on a steep rock slope at 8,000 feet in the Andes Mountains of Peru. All the granite blocks, weighing over 100,000 pounds, were fitted without mortar and designed to dance during earthquakes, shifting and settling back into place on their own. The ancient Inca developed unusually large lung capacity, slower heart rates, and higher hemoglobin levels to carry these massive stones in extreme low oxygen conditions. An estimated 60% of Machu Picchu's architecture lies deep underground, and this buried foundation has prevented the entire city from sliding into the abyss for centuries. Bryce Canyon is a natural stone labyrinth in the United States where thousands of sharp rock pillars stand tightly packed across a high plateau. These rock columns form through freeze-thaw cycles occurring more than 200 times each year. repeatedly cracking and reshaping rock layers that are tens of millions of years old. The rock composition at Bryce Canyon contains iron manganese and limestone, producing vertical bands of red-orange, purple, and white. The serrated terrain extending for hundreds of feet reflects tectonic uplift that raised the region by more than 5,000 feet over multiple geological periods. Scientists regard Bryce Canyon as an open-air Earth laboratory where erosion and geological processes continue to operate day by day. Plitvice Lakes National Park is the oldest national park in Croatia, established in 1949 and recognized as a key natural symbol of the country. The park is known for its system of 16 interconnected lakes, arranged in natural terraces between dense oak and pine forests. This entire chain of lakes and waterfalls is formed through the continuous deposition of travertine, a special type of limestone that creates natural steps over time. The watercolor changes several times throughout the day, shifting between blue turquoise and green due to variations in light reflection and mineral concentration. Travertine formation here occurs at an unusually rapid rate, with new waterfall barriers able to develop within just a few years rather than centuries. Since 2006, swimming or even touching the water has been strictly prohibited to protect the park's highly sensitive ecosystem and ongoing stone formation processes. Lake Natron is an extreme alkaline lake in East Africa, where water pH can reach about 10.5, approaching the alkalinity level of ammonia. Instead of a typical blue color, the lake surface often appears bright red or vivid pink due to halophilic bacteria and algae thriving in the harsh conditions. Despite its toxicity to most life, Lake Natron serves as the primary breeding site for over 2 million lesser flamingos in East Africa. The caustic mud acts as a natural defensive barrier against predators, while red algae in the lake provide both food and the source of the flamingo's distinctive pink plumage. Huangxi Falls is a large waterfall complex near Luang Prabang, Laos, distinguished by its turquoise water formed by high concentrations of calcium carbonate flowing through limestone and sediment. The water remains clear and deeply colored even after rainfall, rather than turning cloudy like most typical waterfalls. Huangxi is composed of multiple waterfall tiers, with the main drop measuring about 197 feet as water cascades into natural pools below. Minerals in the water continuously precipitate, coating tree roots and organic material, causing the waterfall terraces to build upward over time instead of eroding away. Rainbow effects appear daily at the falls due to sunlight refracting through the constant mist without the need for rain. Huacachina is a small village built around a natural lake set among massive sand dunes in the Ica Desert of southwestern Peru. The site is known as the Oasis of America and is one of the very few remaining natural oases across both North and South America. The entire settlement is concentrated around a small lake where vegetation thrives despite being located within one of the driest regions on Earth. Huacachina is encircled by some of the tallest sand dunes in the world, rising to elevations above 6,500 feet above sea level. These dunes form a closed basin that shields the lake from severe sandstorms, while the long-term stability of the water body against moving sand remains unexplained. The Tunnel of Love in Ukraine is a natural tunnel about 2 miles long, formed by dense birch trees growing and intertwining along an active timber railway line. The arched structure of the trees was not designed by humans, but developed as trains passed through the same route several times each day. The heavy steel train repeatedly trimmed protruding branches, forcing the vegetation to grow into a curved vault, precisely matching the shape of the rail cars. Neuschwanstein Castle is considered the tallest castle in the world, with its main tower reaching a height of about 213 feet, constructed in the late 19th century under the order of King Ludwig II of Bavaria. Unlike most castles built for defense or political control, this structure was intended as a private retreat and as a tribute to composer Richard Wagner, who strongly influenced the king's worldview. The castle was placed atop a rugged, rocky mountain, completely isolated from the valley below and disconnected from surrounding settlements. Building on such a steep cliff required transporting approximately 465 tons of marble, 1,550 tons of sandstone, and nearly 500,000 bricks, using a primitive steam-powered pulley system. All materials were hauled upward along dangerous mountain routes under the technical limitations of the 19th century. Despite devoting nearly his entire royal fortune to its construction, King Ludwig II lived in the castle for only about 172 days before being removed from power and dying under unexplained circumstances. Spotted Lake is located in the Similkameen Valley of British Columbia, Canada, and is known to the Okanagan people as Kliluk. The lake surface is covered with hundreds of circular water spots, forming a pattern that resembles a massive natural color palette when viewed from a distance. The color of each spot changes based on chemical composition and rainfall shifting between white, yellow, green, and blue. During World War I, minerals from Spotted Lake were extracted and used in the production of ammunition. Skaftafell Ice Cave is a natural ice cave formed inside a moving glacier, existing in a strictly temporary state within the ice mass. The cave appears only during winter, when temperatures drop low enough for compressed ice to remain stable for short periods, and each year the structure changes completely or disappears. Naturally, curved ice arches and glass-like walls allow light to pass through centuries-old, compressed ice with almost no air bubbles, producing a deep blue coloration. The entire cave exists within a glacier that is slowly sliding forward, causing the ceiling to fracture, the floor to shift, and the ice walls to move on a daily basis. Fingal's Cave is a sea cave formed by volcanic lava around 60 million years ago, extending about 226 feet inward, with a ceiling rising roughly 72 feet above sea level. The cave walls consist of tightly packed hexagonal basalt columns producing sharp geometric surfaces that appear almost artificial in precision. The name Fingal comes from an 18th century Scottish epic hero applied after the cave was formally documented again in 1772 to enhance its mythic identity. Bonneville Salt Flats is a vast salt plain located in northwestern Utah in the United States, covering an area of about 46 square miles. The site is the remaining trace of Lake Bonneville, a prehistoric body of water that existed around 14,500 years ago and left behind a thick layer of salt and minerals as it dried out. The surface is so flat that survey measurements record elevation differences of only a few inches across several miles of distance. The crust of the salt flats is composed of roughly 90% pure sodium chloride, creating conditions where almost no plant or animal life can survive in the central zone. During the rainy season, a thin layer of water, only a few millimeters deep, spreads across the impermeable salt surface, producing near total light reflection. When the water evaporates in summer, the salt crust contracts and naturally fractures into highly regular hexagonal patterns that extend across thousands of acres. Lena Pillars is a massive limestone pillar system rising along the Lena River for roughly 50 miles in the Sakha Republic of Siberia. The stone columns reach average heights between 500 and 1,000 feet, shaped by erosion over hundreds of millions of years under extreme continental conditions. The area preserves abundant fossils dating back to the Cambrian period, more than 500 million years ago, making it critical for studying early life evolution. Wind, water, and intense freeze, thaw cycles carved sharp edges and unstable vertical forms that define the landscape today. Temperature extremes here are among the most severe on Earth, with summer highs near 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and winter lows dropping below minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit. White Sands National Park is best known for containing the largest gypsum dune field in the world, a rare formation because gypsum normally dissolves in water. In this closed geological basin with no outlet to the sea, gypsum becomes trapped and slowly crystallizes into fine, nearly pure white sand. From a distance, the landscape resembles a snow-covered terrain, with bright white dunes stretching for many miles across an otherwise arid desert. The stark contrast between the white sand surface and the deep blue sky often causes the area to be mistaken for a frozen environment. Unlike silica sand, gypsum sand does not absorb heat efficiently, allowing the surface to remain cool even during the hottest summer days. The dunes are not static, continuously shifting and reshaping under wind influence, with some moving up to about 30 feet each year. Hitachi Seaside Park is regarded as one of Japan's most precisely managed large-scale flower landscapes, where seasonal color changes are carefully planned rather than naturally random. In spring, about 5.3 million Nemophila flowers bloom simultaneously for less than 10 days, covering Miharashi Hill in a continuous blue field. During autumn, over 32,000 round kochia bushes gradually shift from green to bright red, transforming the hill slope week by week. Beyond its two signature species, the park maintains rotating blooms of daffodils, tulips, sunflowers, and cosmos, ensuring visual transformation across all 12 months. After each flower season ends, staff and volunteers rework the soil and reseed the grounds to reset the landscape for the next cycle. The wave is a sandstone rock formation located on the slopes of Coyote Butte's north, directly along the border between the states of Arizona and Utah in the United States. The structure originated from massive migrating sand dunes about 190 million years ago, which were later compacted and fossilized into stacked layers of Navajo sandstone. The symmetrical bands across the rock surface formed through the deposition of iron oxides and minerals such as hematite and goethite within the sediment layers. Variations in mineral concentration over time created continuous color bands ranging from deep red and pink to bright yellow throughout the formation. To protect this fragile landscape, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management restricts daily access to only several dozen visitors through a lottery permit system, keeping entry to the wave extremely limited. The Crooked Forest, known in Polish as Krzywy Las, is a famous and unusual site located in northwestern Poland. Its most distinctive feature is a group of about 400 pine trees planted within a confined area, all sharing nearly identical shapes. Instead of growing upright, each tree bends sharply at the base by nearly 90 degrees, runs close to the ground, and then curves upward, forming shapes similar to the letters J or C. What stands out is that every tree bends in the same direction, identified as north, and they were all planted around 1930.